All right, magic makers. As you may know, I moved about 4 months ago. I moved, and as I'm, wrapping up my move and waiting for the movers to come, I started walking around my house, and I started really like paying attention to the rooms that I really didn't use. And you know the rooms I'm talking about. Like, the rooms that, maybe you have this in your house as well. Like the rooms you walk past and you tell yourself, someday I'm going to do this with that. And let me just be honest. I had a dining room for 14 years. I didn't have a dining room table. Apparently, we were minimalist. During COVID, I used to film videos in there. Every Monday, we would do a Monday video in there. Um, and then, like as we were getting ready to sell the house, it just really hit me that like we lived there for all these years and there are rooms that we barely spent any time in, right? The house wasn't really missing anything. It was just like I said, maybe in your house there are rooms that are just right there. And you keep telling yourself, someday you're gonna maybe put up some wallpaper, maybe get a new couch, maybe convert it to something. I don't know. And then you start wondering, like, if my life was a house, have I been doing the same thing? You know, have you been telling yourself, someday, yeah, I'm gonna rest. Someday I'm gonna have some more fun. Someday I'm gonna make new friends. Someday I'm gonna take that trip. Someday I'm gonna learn whatever it is that you want to learn, or finally go to the restaurant that's been, tacked up on your refrigerator for so long, or saved in your Instagram, and finally like take something off the list that you've been carrying around in your head for years, right? And that's the question that has been following me around since I started, packing my bags. And it's really started me to to change how I think about my health, right? My work, how I want to spend the rest of my life, right? For years, the biggest room in my life was my health and my fitness. What was I eating? When was I eating? Whether I trained, how long I trained, would it be enough? And listen, right, health and fitness gave me a lot, so much. I have built a career on it, and I still wholeheartedly believe in strength training, getting in your protein, walk, sleep, all the things. Nutrition is not being escorted from the building by any stretch of the imagination, but for a really long time, that was the only room in my house. I built a very nice health and fitness room and I lived in it like it was a studio apartment. And if my workout wasn't 2 hours, I could really tell myself that it didn't count. A perfectly good day could be ruined if I missed one workout. It didn't count that I had a great conversation with someone. It didn't count that Philip and I laughed with each other. It didn't count that I went for a walk outside. If I missed a workout, X, big red X. And at some point, I had to ask myself, is this, kind of maniacal behavior helping me live a healthier life? Or is it just another way for me to judge myself? You know, let's just say this. In my mind, I was always failing. I was always not doing enough. And I've gotten to the point where I now believe health is supposed to support your life, not be like if health were the sun, like my whole world orbited around it. Now I'm like, you know what? You are a player in my life. You are a room in my life, not a room that I lock the door and spend all my time in. Right. And so, I'm tired of chasing health. I always felt like, I was always behind. I was always running to keep up with whatever it was that I always my self-imposed judge. And, maybe your judge is like mine, and like my self-imposed judge, she is like freaking hard. Like I'm never gonna get a perfect 10 with that chick. And so I built my whole life around proving how disciplined I was, right? And this is what I've come to find out. Your whole life shouldn't be built around proving how motivated and how disciplined you are. So last summer, one of the favorite things that Philip and I do when we go out to dinner is we sit at the bar. And last summer, we were sitting at this a bar and we were talking to this older couple. And at some point in the conversation, he says, "Well, I'm in the back nine of my life." And all of a sudden, I was like, "Whoa, you know." wow. And in my head, I'm nowhere near the back nine. However, I'm still looking for the beverage cart. I'm still out. I'm still out in the fairway. But it made me ask myself some hard questions. And, if you've been around here for a while, you may have heard me say this. And, Tony Robbins first said this to me probably like 20 years ago. If I ask myself better questions, I get better answers, right? So, for years, I always ask myself, "Ah, why do I suck? Why am I so behind?" And the question that he made me think about is that, like, is this how I want to spend my life? Like, do I want to spend my life constantly feeling like I'm behind? Do I want to spend my life constantly chasing and always feeling like I'm never going to catch up? And so, do I keep measuring a good day by how closely I followed my self-imposed rules? Or do I want to pay attention to how my life actually feels while I'm living it? Right? Do I feel rested? Am I laughing? My favorite thing to do. Am I actually following through on plans to see people in real life? Am I going places or am I just staying in my house? I will admit, for several years, I have become a homebody. I've become very tied to my house. And, am I doing any of the things I say someday, someday, someday? Like, well, guess what? I'm making someday happen right now. And I know because I know I don't want to reach some future age, the back nine age, and look back at like the last, nine holes or last maybe 15 holes and say, I got really good at maintaining myself, but I forgot to have fun. Fun is my love language. And so, does it mean I'm giving up my health? Hell to the no. It means I'm just getting clearer about what health is for. I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. I want to have enough stamina so that I can participate in my life. Living in Florida, so my mom has lived in Florida for like 20 years. And every year that I come, I go to visit her. Every year, we fly into the West Palm Beach airport, and there is a dozen uh, wheelchairs sitting there. And there are people waiting to either get on or off the plane. And I was like, that ain't going to be me. I want to get on and off the aircraft myself. And so every time I come back from visiting her and I teach a class and I always talk to the people who take my class or clients, I'm like, we're going to work on that posture. You're like, you got to lift heavy weights because you want to be able to walk on your own independently. I'm not talking as for years I trained aesthetically for years. Now I'm like, you know what? I want to be able to get out of the chair I'm sitting in without having to like make all these gyrations to get up. I want to be able to like walk on my own volition and like have like my core stability, balance, all of that, all the things that I want to be able to have. And I want to be strong and healthy enough to participate in my life, right? And my workout now, that's where the process is, right? Not like how many burpees I can do. Hell to the no. It's like it's my workout is no longer my entire personality, right? I'm no longer going to be the person who's like, look how bad I am. Screw badass. Like I am done with that, right? The workout's supposed to help me out, not become my entire personality or be judge and jury if because I didn't get 2 hours in, it doesn't count. Right? Movement is movement. And that's one of the things I work a lot with my clients on so that we stop this like black and white, judge, like, oh, all I did today was get 10,000 steps. I suck. Girl, that's what you got? Great. Move on and be okay with that. Because I'm sick of watching women beat themselves up because they can't keep up with what they were able to do 5, 10, 20 years ago. And, aren't you tired of always trying to go back? And instead, we have to admit, but your body has changed. Responsibilities, schedules, relationships, all of it has changed. That's not failure. That's your season changing. I'm lucky enough that I have clients that I've seen through several seasons. I have clients that who came to me, they were like a 20-something single person. Then they went into motherhood. Then they went into their 30s, postpartum, maybe had another kid, or maybe they were one and done. But it was like that adjustment back. They were like, damn, yeah, right? We have to adjust. The adjustment from, just living your life to like, oh, hello, perimenopause to menopause, right? you can't get mad at that, right? I want you to think about it like this. Best example I have for you. You can't get mad because there's a blizzard in Boston in January and you want to go to the beach. I mean, I get it. There's been plenty of times that Boston weather has done me dirty. However, it doesn't change the forecast as much as I want. I can't stand in my window looking at the snow come out in my bathing suit and get mad because it's January and it's snowing and I want to go to the beach. Or I look outside and say, you know what? It's January. It is what it is. And I gotta put on my fur hat and put on my parka and put on my boots, right? That's not quitting. That's not failure. That's like accepting reality. That's not wishful thinking. And so many times I see people with the wishful thinking that you're putting on your bathing suit in January in Boston, and I'm like, girlfriend, like that's not the season you're in, and that's okay. But if we want to put our bathing suit on in June and be like, let's go, let's freaking go. Well, maybe not in June, because sometimes, we still have Mother Nature still hasn't recognized that it is summer just yet. All right. So this is what I want to know. Like your routine isn't broken. Maybe it expired. Maybe you don't need more discipline. Actually, I know you don't need more discipline. You need to adjust for the season that you're actually in and decide decide what that season looks like for you and be okay. Because so many of you judge, and I see it, right? Like if I can't run around with the world with my hair on fire, why even live? And that's okay. And so one of the ways that I've broken myself of this, I'm raising my hand, guilty as charged, is that I started creating what I call experiments, right? So instead of creating these like, rules that God knows where they came from, but in my mind, they like came down on the tablets like Moses. I'm building a life recipe, a recipe that gives you ingredients so that I can adjust, right? In a recipe, I can make adjustments. If I want a little bit more salt, I add a little bit more salt. If I want to put in a pinch more of that and a pinch more of that, or take out this, I can do it. And so it's if something changes in the recipe, that's okay, right? Because there's no prize for forcing a meal down that you don't like because the recipe said so. And so my recipes still include strength training, walking, protein, water, absolutely. But I'm now starting to make time for rest. And I've talked about this on several occasions. I am the queen of my wind down in the evening. I live for my wind down. I'm also building time for fun and friendships and connection and being curious, like, just starting to do things that I might not be good at, but it's just challenging me to break out of my rut and say to myself, like, I need anything I choose. It has to work for my actual life, the actual season of life that I'm in right now, not the version in my mind that I have all the unlimited time and I don't have any other responsibilities or no one else needing me to do anything. And so, one of the things that we did this summer, many of you may know that my husband had retired earlier this year. And one of the things we started to do, we started to shift our weekends. We moved our weekends to Tuesday and Wednesday because that's what works for our life now. And at first it felt strange. You're like, what? Weekends are Saturday and Sunday. Those are the rules. Except for like, who made the rule? Like, it's not a rule for my life. And if Tuesday and Wednesday gives us more opportunity to actually enjoy where we live, why would I wait till Saturday? Because that's what a weekend's supposed to look like. And so, it's easier to get a reservation at a restaurant on a Tuesday because that many people are fighting to get out on a Tuesday, or go go hit balls on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, or go to a movie. So that's why we made the shift so that it's just a little bit easier on our life. And on Saturday and Sunday, we barely leave the house because everyone else is trying to fight to do all the things we were able to do on a Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm learning pickleball. So far, so good. I'm also learning mahjong. Now I need someone to play with, which so that I can actually try to get better. I figured out what cracks and bams mean, but I need to find some more people to play with. And, it's either well, whether you're heading to a playroom or gathering room and starting to bump into each other, and that's okay. And that's the thing about the house. Rooms aren't sealed off from each other. right? Many of us just keep walking past the room. So now it's time for us to say, like, I'm trying to make more time for play, making more time for connection, finally taking a break, finally putting your feet up. And, maybe that'll give you more energy to explore and stop making health the whole house. And health might start to feel easier because we've taken so much pressure off of health. And because you've put realistic expectations on yourself instead of being like, it must look like this. If it doesn't look like this, it's crap. And so over the last few weeks, in the podcast, I've shared about the 4 rooms and I've talked about the guides that, are waiting to show you what it's like when you're able to participate in these rooms so that, we start to build, in those deeper dives, like if one of these hits you between the eyes, go back and listen. So I've talked about the exhale room, right? And you have your burnout Brenda is your guide there. And, it's no, this room is all about whether you can stop feeling the need to earn rest, right? Can you sit down before you're tired? Do you need to finish 3 things on your to-do list before you take a break? Can you watch a movie or a TV show, whatever you want to call it, and not be folding laundry at the same time or scrolling or making a to-do list? Can you just have a day like just be unproductive and as hell and count it as a good day? And if that is like, girl, are you looking over my shoulder? You are definitely a burnt out Brenda, and she is waiting to show you how to take a nice deep exhale. And then we have the playroom, right? This is where fun rooms. And though a lot of women, fun quietly slides to the bottom of the list, closely tied to like, I must complete things in order to have fun. We tell ourselves we'll get to it after the work's done, after the house is handled. Everybody else okay, but basically it never happens. So play doesn't have to be this like huge trip. It can be going and playing pickleball for an hour or mahjong or, my husband likes to hit golf balls, going to hit golf balls or, having, a true conversation with a friend. Like you don't have to be good at. You just allow yourself to enjoy something without it turning into a performance review. And, us two serious Tammys, we need to spend some time in the playroom. And like our next room is like, it's very easy for us in our world to feel connected because, you saw someone's post on Facebook or you got a text or you sent someone a meme. Or you say, oh, girl, we need to get together for like 6 straight months without ever putting a date on the calendar. Well, ask me how I know this because I'm guilty of this as well. Connection isn't about collecting contacts, right? If we all went through our contact list, we probably have dozens and dozens of contacts. But how many of those people do we want to spend real time with? And moving has really made me think, like, I moved someplace, I don't know a soul but my husband. And I've learned that I don't really need us to be instant BFFs. I just need a few good people who make me want to leave my house and try something new without it turning into like forced networking or, you're my next soulmate friend. And that's finding her people, Faye. That's the guy that's waiting for you in this room. And then finally we have the someday room, right? This is the one that holds all the curiosity, the new experiences, finally looking at your someday list and starting to really say, how am I going to attack this? Because like, how many times have you said, someday I'm going to learn that or finally make time for this? And someday is very patient. And for a lot of people, someday doesn't ever come. It just quietly sits there in the corner, waiting for you to blow the dust off it and have a look at it. And when I say someday, like I'm not saying you got to go on this eat, pray, love trip to Italy. Or about, I think she went to Italy too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know she definitely went to Bali, but I'm not saying that you have to do that. It could be something like as simple as a new restaurant in town, or even a restaurant that you've passed. And you're like, oh, we should try that someday. Give that a try, or a class, or doing something differently, driving a different route, whatever. It's still part of your life. And the person waiting for you in this room is Iris. She is waiting for you here. So if you if one of those rooms you feel needs attention, your whole life isn't broken, right? So many times we're like, everything sucks. And sometimes it can feel that way. But everything doesn't suck. Maybe it's just one room and we'll take it one room at a time. And like, you don't need to bulldoze the whole house. You don't need a 12-step routine. You don't need a 4:30 a.m. start. Oh, God, look, I do not miss those early mornings at all. But maybe you just need to spend a little bit more time in one room. Maybe a room that it's just you need for this particular season. And it just doesn't really take up as much space as it used to. And maybe it's that room you keep walking past, telling yourself, someday I'm going to open the door. Someday I'll run the vacuum over the carpet. I don't know, but here's what I know. A house changes as the people live in it change. So think about it, right? Maybe the nursery where your kids stayed is now an office. My dining room maybe becomes the mahjong room. You're learning, you're allowed to repurpose things. You're allowed to change the recipe. You're allowed to decide how you want to spend the rest of your life. And it's more than the rules we came up with decades ago, or someone came up decades ago. Because I bet you right now, I don't know who came up with the rules that I used to follow, but you bet your sweet bottom dollar, I followed them like I was going to go to jail. And maybe you're sick of like doing the same thing to yourself. And so, as I keep saying, you don't have to fix every room at once. Pick one, spend 10 minutes there. Rest before everything gets done. Put your feet up. Make a plan with a friend and protect it like it's a doctor's appointment. Text a friend and actually put a date in the calendar. Choose one thing off your someday list and take the smallest step towards it. I'm not saying book the worldwide cruise, but I'm saying, hey, if there is a restaurant in your town, make the reservation. And not because it's another assignment, because this is your life and you deserve to live in it more. Deserve to live in more than one room at a time. So, if your life were a house, which room would you be walking past? Would you be walking past the room where you exhale, you play, you connect, always saying someday? If you don't know, I've created a free quiz called What Room in Your Life Needs Attention? And it'll help you figure out what room might need a little bit more time and attention. And I'll give you one little small step to begin with. And this really isn't about finding anything wrong with you. You're not a fixer-upper. It's just noticing the season that you're in. What needs attention, and giving yourself permission to make those small adjustments. So, in the show notes, you'll have the link to the actual quiz. And if this idea that health is, part of a bigger piece of your life is also leading me to think about something new. I've been feeling the pull to change the way I serve women to help us, make more space for resting and friendships and curiosity and actually enjoying the lives we work so damn hard to build. And so I'm calling this next chapter the Flip Flop Life. And the funny thing, I came up with this name like a decade ago, and I didn't fully know what it meant back then. I just liked how it sounded. Now it's fully coming into focus. And I'll tell you what the rest of it means next episode. Cliffhanger. So for now, do me a favor. Go to the show notes, take the quiz, and tell me which room you are ready to stop walking past. All right, Magic Makers, thank you so much for your time today. And if this hit home, do me a favor, share this with another friend of yours. Hit me up on the socials, and I will talk to you guys next week to really explore what the flip flop life is all about.